If you happen to like casual puzzle titles like Superliminal, I think you'll really enjoy Viewfinder. It's a relatively short game. There are 5 stages, there are multiple levels within each stage, and there are optional challenges. And these optional challenges are only unlocked if you complete the level. And I really recommend you do play the optional challenges. They're a lot of fun. They're also probably the most challenging puzzles. I really felt like, for the most part, Viewfinder was not a difficult game, although they do throw a nice curveball at you at the end of the game, which I found fun. And it's a shame there weren't more sections like it, honestly, because while I really enjoyed the casual nature of Viewfinder, I was hoping there would be, at some point, a little bit of a heightened challenge. But I also enjoyed the fact that it's a casual puzzle game. You solve it at your own pace. And there are going to be some puzzle sections where I feel like you are just going to want to experiment and do really dumb things. I feel like I solved a lot of puzzles by just kind of being random. I think that's the best way to describe it, because the bulk of the puzzle that you're solving in Viewfinder require you to take a picture and essentially replace a certain area with that picture. And you have to bear in mind that when you're doing this for the first time, that you could potentially destroy these teleporters that are required for you to progress through the level. So you have to kind of manipulate the environment a bit to ensure that you can get to that teleporter unabated. And I really love that, because as soon as you start to go through some of these levels, you're going to want to mess around to see what you can get away with. And that's honestly the best way to solve the optional levels in this game, because some of them are real brain teasers in comparison to the standard levels. And I feel like one of the things that needs to be noted for those of you who played Viewfinder for the first time, don't try to overthink things. And I know that's a really odd thing to say about a puzzle game, but believe me, Viewfinder is one of those rare games, like Superliminal, in which there's a nice flow to it. Every stage in Viewfinder has a theme, and I recommend that you keep that theme in mind while you're progressing through the stage. There's one stage in particular that I think, because it was so different from the other levels in Viewfinder, that I struggled just a bit, because my brain would not wrap my head around the fact that when I'm taking pictures or utilizing photographs, there are certain structures that I cannot take photographs of. But if there is something on the other side in which you can get a picture of, just keep that in mind when you're trying to solve some of these puzzles, because that's one of the ways to solve it. And I found those stages, which were the most challenging, to also be the most fun, because it really forced me to look at things from a different perspective. And for the entirety of the 4-hour or so run through Viewfinder, I really appreciate the fact that the developers did a good job of making every theme different, which is something I really appreciate, because good puzzle games escalate as you go along, and Viewfinder is no different. In the 3rd stage, you unlock the Polaroid camera, and your AI companion, who happens to be a cat named Kate, gets pretty excited for you, because you find that Polaroid camera near a cake. And once you get that camera, this is where I feel like Viewfinder really hits its stride and really separates itself from other puzzle titles. With the Polaroid camera, you are now completely in control of how puzzles are solved. So before, as you were progressing through levels, you were given photographs. You go throughout the level, you search for them, you might find a hidden secret or two, you might have to go through a copier, but with the Polaroid camera, it now becomes about you and your creativity, and I really enjoyed that, because I did a lot of really dumb things in Viewfinder. This is where I feel like the trial and error comes in, but it's not punishing, primarily because there's a really generous rewind feature in this game. If you happen to make a mistake, you do not have to restart. All you have to do is tap the rewind button, hold it down, you can go back a couple of seconds, or you can double tap the rewind button and go back to a key event. And these key events are all tied to your photography, i.e. your picture placement. So don't feel bad if you happen to make a mistake, because the rewind button is your friend. It's something that I use quite often when I was tackling optional levels. It was something I used pretty often when I was on that final challenge. I really feel like every puzzle title needs a rewind feature. I know that a lot of them do, but there's limited uses. And here, it's unlimited. So If you happen to make a mistake, rewind. If I had a gripe with Viewfinder, and listen, this is just my opinion, it's that the later stages featured far too many easy levels. And by that I mean you are going to see increasingly complex puzzles as you go along, and that's expected as you progress through a puzzle game. But you also have far too many levels at the end stages in which it really requires one photograph or just one move to solve it. And I found that to be really odd at times because each stage features multi-tiered levels. So as you're progressing from teleporter to teleporter, the expectation is that the challenge is going to be fairly consistent, and it's not. You will probably sometimes start off with a really complex challenge, and then it'll be really easy, and then really easy again, and then really complex. And I feel like that is a bit of an odd design choice, and probably like the only gripe I have about this game. Because with most modern puzzle games, you're getting these really multi-tiered complex challenges, and it gets really consistent as you near the end of the game. And I feel like what Viewfinder does is that it's still introducing new mechanics to you, and it's constantly giving you a lot of easy challenges, and they'll throw into a complex one, but instead of like immediately pushing to another complex challenge, you get into a really easy one, and it's really confusing. And I feel like that type of uneven difficulty was just unsatisfying for me at times. Before I end the video, let's briefly talk about the narrative of Viewfinder. You are a researcher who is going through a number of different simulations by individuals known as the founders. And these founders were all researching a means to combat climate change. Outside of a small section at the beginning of the game, you're going to learn more about the narrative as you play, as you progress through levels, as you explore, because you're going to want to take your time to kind of go around some of these stages and listen to the audio recordings and review the writings. And whenever Kate has something to say, I always feel like it's pretty important. I think everything he talks about is really relevant, especially because the founders to you are a mystery and he's there to act as that messenger. Personally, I just found it kind of odd that the developers have this really strong message that they're trying to convey. And there's only one real section in this game that kind of drives home the impact of your character's work. I just found it kind of weird that at no point in time in the game do they ever really go back to it. Because when it does happen in the beginning, I think it's a really cool curve. And I believe it's only natural for you to expect more of that. But I will say that the voice actor for Kate in particular is excellent. And they do a great job of conveying how Kate feels about being this AI in this really empty, lonely space. And you can see how happy Kate is to see you. So please, if you're playing this game, pet Kate as often as possible. And also, hashtag justice for Kate. You'll know when you get to that part of the game. Overall, Viewfinder is really solid and is a game that I can easily recommend, especially if you are a fan of games like Superliminal. If you love those forced perspective type puzzle games, you are going to absolutely enjoy this title. Like I said, it is a bit on the short side, around 4 hours or so, and you'll beat this game. The optional challenges are probably the most fun I've had in a puzzle game in a little bit because they're real brain teasers. Some, however, are a little bit easier to solve. Others require you to figure out how to get 4 batteries, and listen, that's probably what I'm working on right now, and I'm probably just being really dumb about it. I really feel like this is one of those games in which it's best not to overthink and just go with the flow, and always keep in mind about the theme of the stage. And that is going to do it for this video. If you happen to like the content, please consider like, sharing, and subscribing. We're currently on our push to 1,000 subs, and we would really appreciate the help. If you happen to play Viewfinder, please leave a comment below about how you felt about the game. I do respond to almost every comment that gets submitted. So if you want to talk about things that you loved about the game, how to complete certain optional stages, let me know, because like I said, I do need some assistance in solving that optional stage with the 4 batteries because my brain, for whatever reason, just is not functioning. Sometimes I just can't do the smart today. Got the dumbs. And if for whatever reason you feel like the comment you're going to leave is probably too lengthy, just join our Discord and we can talk about it. I'll leave the link below. I am Ken from Pixelated Thoughts, and I will talk to you next time.